Hello and welcome to Carlos Castaneda, The Wheel of Time, the wisdom of the shamans of ancient Mexico. These quotations are from the second Ring of Power, the fifth book in the series. When one has nothing to lose, one becomes courageous. We are timid only when there is something we can still cling to. So attachment breeds fear because we cling to things, we grasp things. In Buddhism, grasping is seen as a source of suffering. Craving, grasping, attachment causes suffering. So when we've got nothing to lose, because we're all beings that are going to die, that being the worst, then we can become bold, daring, brave, courageous. Because we're afraid only when we're trying to hold on to something. Our possessions, our partner, our friends, our family, our self-importance, our ego, our status, job, title. But if we can let go, there's nothing to hold on to. So in that sense, nothing to lose. A warrior could not possibly leave anything to chance. He actually affects the outcome of events by the force of his awareness and his unbending intent. Energy creates energy. Energy has a force behind it. It has a will, an intent of its own, a volition. We, as warriors, can actually affect the outcome of events simply through the force of our own presence, our own awareness. That's sorcery. Now, this is a magical thing because to a sorcerer, we do in fact create our own reality. We use our power, our intent, and that intent must be unbending, without distraction, without noise, without interference. If a warrior wants to pay back for all the favours he has received, and he has no one in particular to address his payment to, he can always address it to the spirit of man. That's always a very small account, and whatever one puts in it is more than enough. So, we can dedicate our efforts, our acts, our intent, our power to the spirit of man. We do it for the spirit of man, for the spirit. For no other reason than to be impeccable. Now that's always a very small account because nobody ever uses it. Nobody's even aware that it exists, and yet spirit is all around us. The force is everywhere. Spirit is everything. It contains the entire manifest universe, the cosmos. But because no one is aware of it, it's a very small account. Whatever you put in it, whatever you invest in spirit, will pay dividends. It's more than enough. After arranging the world in a most beautiful and enlightened manner, the scholar goes back home at 5 o'clock in the afternoon in order to forget his beautiful arrangements. So the warrior, as a scholar, as someone who is deeply engaged in cultivating the mind, the intellect, creates a perfect island. The island of the tonal must be in order. Your affairs must be in order. Things must be organized. Your house, your environment must be tidy. Your mind must be tidy. Part of impeccability is having our affairs in order, having the spiritual, physical, intellectual, emotional, creative, and social dimensions all in balance. Once you attend to one thing, you can let go of it for today and then move on to the next domain. When you've done your meditation, you can then go to the gym or do your martial arts. You can then work on your creativity for a few hours. Then go and do what business you have to do in town. Then go and see your friends. So on and so forth. Arranging the world in a most beautiful and enlightened manner requires the utmost intelligence. To have intelligent action applied strategically to our lives. But at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, which is a metaphor for any time at all, you go home and do something else. You forget your arrangement because it's left. Once the garden is cultivated, it can be left for all to see in its beauty and grandeur. You don't need to tend to it anymore. See? The human form is a conglomerate of energy fields which exists in the universe and which is related exclusively to human beings. Shamans call it the human form because those energy fields have been bent and contorted by a lifetime of habits and misuse. So the human cocoon, the energy body, you could call it the soul, instead of being cultivated and developed maximally to its full potential and potency, has been distorted, contorted by a lifetime of habits and misuse. You fall into bad habits, laziness, self-pity, greed, anger, bad moods, depression, and so on. We allow ourselves to get swept away by distractions, to occupy our mind in trivialities, instead of focusing on the only thing that matters, which is the spirit, of course. And that doesn't mean that, one must get all, morose and serious about it, although it's a serious endeavour. One must have a serious intent. Still, one can take their personality, which you normally take so seriously, which manifests in the self-importance, less seriously, and we can lighten up and allow ourselves to become a graceful, magical being as a child again, but with the evolved, cultivated awareness of the arduous path of the warrior. So the human form is that conglomeration of energy fields, the bands of awareness, the filaments of energy which come from the source, the eagle, as Don Juan described it, although it's not really an eagle, but it resembles an eagle to the Toltecs. It has a definite form. I mean, it's an egg shape, and it's full of energy, but very little of this energy is actually utilized. Instead, we tend to misuse our energy, to squander it. to not use it intelligently. We might have bad habits like not sleeping enough or sleeping too much, watching useless television, talking about inane subjects and things that don't really contribute to your well-being, the well-being of others, and the environment. Not having respect and reverence for the spirit, and so on. Then those energy fields get bent out of shape. They become unhealthy, which is the unfortunate condition of mankind today. Most people, while we may have developed technologies and sciences that have prolonged human life and generally made life more comfortable and efficient, it certainly has worked that way. But we don't see a lot of magical people full of energy and power walking about. People tend to assume that power means political power or having control over other people, but that's not power. Well, it's a type of power. It's ego-based power, but as soon as you lose your supporters, as soon as you lose your followers, your power's gone, you're finished. But the power I'm talking about is permanent. It's the only thing that's permanent because it belongs exclusively to you, to your human form, what you've cultivated. You see, it's easy to have a soul, not so easy to create a soul. So, moving on. A warrior knows that he cannot change, and yet he makes it his business to try to change. Nevertheless, the warrior is never disappointed when he fails to change. That's the only advantage a warrior has over the average man. So, this is kind of difficult, tricky subject to explain, and I admit that I don't really have my head around it. But I have an inkling. I felt, after 20 odd years of looking into this stuff, I have an inkling of what Don Juan means when he says that a warrior, in essence, a man, cannot change. I mean, he cannot change the fact that he is a man. He has a human form, you see. But at the same time, circumstances can be changed, energy levels can be increased, things can be cultivated. You can cultivate your intellect, for example, by reading, by employing strategy in your life. You can improve your diet. You can work on your social confidence or your anxieties or negative mind states and so on, but you cannot change the fundamental fact of your human condition. You can transcend the human condition. One can ultimately become superhuman, attain supernormal abilities, powers, so on. One becomes transhuman, as you like, but still one is a man, is a human being. So this cannot be changed. Moreover, a warrior is never disappointed when he fails to change. So he doesn't get attached to the outcome. And he knows, in a sense, that his personality is fixed. But that only matters if you're attached to the personality, the self-importance. You cannot change your basic personality. You cannot change the fact that you're a man. So you shouldn't get disappointed when these things keep coming up for you. Certain personality traits, for example, might come up. You might be prone to laziness. You might be prone to procrastination, indecision, and so on. And these things, they're always gonna be lurking in the background in the shadow, waiting to pounce. So you have to be constantly vigilant. That's why I promote the idea of the diligence agent, being a vigilante of the spirit. So that's the only advantage a warrior has over the average man, because the average man tends to easily fall into delusory ideals or fantasies, and he gets inevitably disappointed when these fantastical changes don't happen, because it was all fantasy in the first place. You know. Warriors must be impeccable in their effort to change, in order to scare the human form and shake it away. After years of impeccability, a moment will come when the human form cannot stand it any longer and leaves. That is to say, a moment will come when the energy fields, contorted by a lifetime of habit, are straightened out. A warrior gets deeply affected and can even die as a result of the straightening out of energy fields. But an impeccable warrior always survives. So impeccability is the key. Not compassion, not self-pity, not consoling oneself, taking it easy on oneself. That sort of thing. Rather, warriors must be impeccable in their efforts to change, whatever it takes to grow, to expand, to develop, to cultivate, to become more energized, to become more powerful. When one is full of power, one rarely gets sick. And from a shamanic point of view, bad spirits, negative entities, intrusions, darks, and so on won't succeed in harming us. That will be our invulnerability. An impeccable warrior always survives. After years of impeccability, the human form simply cannot stand it anymore. It's the human form, which is an aberration, if you like, of the totality of oneself. It's all contorted and distorted, and wires are crossed, everything. All that gets straightened out. So the human form just leaves. It is metaphysical in its actuality. You see, it's not simply a metaphor. The only freedom warriors have is to behave impeccably. Not only is impeccability freedom, it is the only way to straighten out the human form. So the freedom is not some end goal after a lifetime of cultivation, but the freedom to act impeccably, to be impeccable in every moment, every day, all the time. Impeccability, building upon impeccability, until there is only impeccability, only freedom. That's the only way to straighten out the human form. Any habit needs all its parts in order to function. If some parts are missing, the habit is disassembled. So you take out one of the component parts of the habit, any bad habit you have, or is there such thing? I mean, my teacher, my mentor said to me, there's no such thing as a good habit. Anything that you do routinely, asleep in Gurdjieffian terms, without awareness, means you're asleep. It's a habit. You're on automatic pilot. You're unconscious. See, and a warrior must be conscious of all things, of everything. So once you remove when you see that habit, say it's laziness or procrastination, you see that it follows a certain pattern and sequence. And if you can identify all the parts of the sequence, you can see how you arrive at the indecision, at the procrastination, at whatever bad habit is you have, or depression, or something, and you can stop it at any point. You just take out one part of the sequence, and the habit falls apart. It's disassembled. It falls away, breaking the link in the chain, and the chain no longer binds us. Thanks for listening.